two state by-elections in Victoria hang in the balance with Labor and Liberal neck and neck after a major swing against the Allan government in the heartland seat of Werribee. Victoria political reporter Simon Love is monitoring results in our Melbourne studio. Simon, what are the latest results?
Well, Rhiannon, both of these seats are extremely tight and they're too close to call at the moment. Despite the optimism, particularly the Liberal Party early, it seems that it's neck and neck in the seat of Werribee. And in Prahran, it seems the Greens vote may be holding up somewhat. But I'll just show you some of the figures first, particularly in the seat of Werribee. When you take a look at the primary vote, well, Labor's John Lister is ahead slightly, but the Liberal candidate is getting 26% of the primary vote. Interestingly there, and crucially, the independent candidate, Paul Hopper, who had an open ticket, has 13% of the primary. Now, when it translates into a two-party preferred result, this is extremely close, but it does show a swing away from the government. The government held this on a 10.9% margin, the Labor government on more than 60% two-candidate preferred. That's back to 51-49, so that seat is in the balance. As for Prahran, where Brad Batten is speaking right now, and I'll take you to him shortly, let's just have a quick look at those results because it is quite telling to see how the Greens are going, particularly on a first preference basis. 36% of the vote for both the Greens and the Liberals in Prahran, with 64% of the vote counted. Interestingly, Tony Lupton, who could be a kingmaker, he has 12% of the primary. However, the Greens are ahead on a two-candidate preferred basis, and it's quite the result at the moment for the Greens. It's holding up, but they're worried about the preference flows, particularly in that seat. So the Liberals may not be as optimistic about their chances there. Now, a very short time ago, Brad Batten, the Victorian Liberal opposition leader, arrived at Liberal headquarters in Prahran. We can bring you some of that now.
That we can get our message out to the community that we are here and we are ready to stand up and represent the community of Prahran. To all of my colleagues, and I won't go through and name them, but many of them are here tonight for the work that they have done. Thank you so much. It has been great to see you out and about backing Rachel. It is this group here that are working towards what we want to achieve next year on November 28th, 2026, and they will continue to be your voice. It's been a very interesting by-election. We've gone out on the booths. I've been out there with Rachel, whether it's going into shops, speaking to communities and hearing what they've got to say. And they have been telling us loud and clear. Crime is a big concern when it comes to the people of Prahran. When they see images of someone running down the street with a machete in a street that used to be a tourism hotspot, they're telling us that it is time for change. When the businesses have to put up for lease signs because they can't afford to pay the land tax from the Labor and Greens government, they're telling us it's time for change. This community are sick of it. And tonight is the beginning of a process. We know there's a lot of counting to go, but with a wonderful local candidate we've had here, we have pushed them to the brink to ensure that everybody knows. Rachel Westaway and the Victorian Liberal Party are ready to come and take over some of these communities and ensure we can deliver for those that we represent. Volunteers, colleagues, as I get the pleasure to introduce a person who you all know as a local because she's lived here for the last 20 years. More importantly, she's here with her family, Simon, and her beautiful children, who have all come along to support her. And can I tell you, as a candidate back in 2010, and obviously a Member of Parliament now, and each of my colleagues behind us, we all know that if you don't have family support, this job is impossible. So can we also thank them for what they've done during this time? And finally, I want to introduce to you someone who has been amazing during this campaign, our local candidate, and we are going to pray, push and count every vote, because we want to say that it is our future member for the seat of Prahran, Rachel Westaway.
All right, so two very tight races in Melbourne tonight. Simon, do you think we're likely to see any winners declared this evening?
I don't think so, Rhiannon. I think this is extremely too tight to call, and the Labor Party is certainly holding the Premier, Jacinta Allan, back from heading to Labor headquarters in Werribee to say anything at the moment. I think the message, particularly from Labor tonight, will be to their supporters that their vote may have collapsed somewhat in Werribee. However, it is not heading towards the Liberal Party. It is heading in the direction of independence and minor parties, which is quite staggering to see that the Liberal campaign has not held, particularly with their candidate, Steve Murphy, who is not a local at this point in time. He lives in Niddrie, which is northeast of the electorate. He spoke a short time ago at Liberal headquarters in Werribee. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
Well, the result already is a strong message from the Werribee people. I've believed this, this is purely, the issues with the local area and obviously the crime, the lack of infrastructure, the lack of transport, roads, you name it, and it's showing up. So again, let's see what happens. Obviously we won't know tonight, but I do appreciate and I thank the people of Werribee that they've given us, the trust that they've given us to get this far.
Now, John Lister, the ALP's candidate in Labor, has got a lot of support. A number of MPs and ministers have been out there. His family have also been backing him.
He's really positive about the thing, and he's got so many fabulous ideas that he's pushing, and I just love that about him. Things that we've talked about over the years. I'm a teacher, he's a teacher. A lot of the problems we see in the community come from the fact that, it's a tough area. Like door knocking out at Wyndham Vale, there's a lot of isolated women, migrant women and stuff like that out there, and it's hard for them.
So, Rhiannon, it's too close to call in both of these seats at 9:30. The more votes have been counted in Prahran than in Werribee, which is quite interesting. There is more booths in the Werribee electorate, although when you look at this from a federal sense, it's going to be very interesting to see. The Labor votes collapsed in western part of Melbourne. Not enough to think that they may lose that seat just yet. However, it's going to be interesting. These are the sorts of heartland seats that they would have to maintain, particularly from a federal sense. Now, in the Prahran electorate, which intersects with the federal electorates of McNamara and Melbourne, given that the Liberal Party hasn't quite got over the top of the Greens yet, the Greens will be quite buoyed by that, because Adam Bant territory there in the northern end of this electorate, well, they'll be keen to hang on to that in the federal election, and this could be good signs for them in that. It could also, even though Labor's not run in Prahran in this by-election, could be good signs for Josh Burns as well too, that there hasn't been somewhat of a major swing yet to the Liberal Party, enough for them to call that seat. But certainly, as we heard from Brad Batten before, there's a lot of optimism. And my understanding is that Jacinta Allan at this stage has not made her way to Labor HQ. So we'll keep an eye on that, bring that to our viewers when we can.
It'll be very interesting to see how it all goes. Simon, thank you.